Hello and welcome to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard.
Yes, we're going crazy.
And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I am doing swell. Now, as you know, we
you're
usually
swelling, huh?
We usually start off this here podcast by talking about the weather.
Or something else that's going on in the universe.
Well, in this case, what was it last Sunday? 50, 60 degrees?
Yeah, it was nice out.
And now it's 32 degrees. We've got snow showers. We lucked out here in the cities because there's a huge storm that's rolling across the United States. It gave our friends up in North Dakota, which isn't really that far from us, up to 48 inches of snow. And you can go check out some of the Fargo news sites where people are opening their doors and they have like 3-4 foot of drifts against their things. We had blistering wind where in the case of 1 mile, 9 semi-trailers got knocked over. And there, you can actually go to MnDOT and find the cameras that they were using to watch traffic. As one truck pulled over, and when the wind hit, it is at a full stop, it knocked over, as did the one behind it. And then the camera spun around, and there were 2 more. One splayed totally across the highway. South of us, tornadoes. We got 4 in Minnesota. The Twin Cities, though, we were right in the sweet spot. We did have weird winds today. We had snow showers. We had thunder boomers, but we didn't really get severe weather. I don't know how it was with you down in Chaska. I know a little bit farther south, they got like ping pong size hail and shit like that. We were kind of like right in the middle. Like my good buddy Jamie up in Ely, he's like, I'm snowed in today. Guess I'm reading comics.
We've just had winds. There was some snow flurries and everything, but I had deliveries today, and there was one. It was potato chips, so it's like a big box, doesn't weigh very much.
Oh yeah, you usually get that right before WrestleMania.
Did it blow away? Well, it tried. He dropped it off, and I was on a work call, and when the work call was over, I went out. It was on the deck, and I could tell that they had put it, at one part of the deck, and it had blown all the way across, and was up against the other wall. So they tried to escape.
Cory in his bathrobe and slippers chasing his potato chips down the trailer park. Come back, come back.
I was at work, so it was.
Isn't the weirdest thing to see there?
So it was my my blue jeans and my wrestling shirts. I don't know if I said on the last episode, they did go through and ask everybody if they want to be at work, into the office, be at the office half the time, or be at home all the time. I chose be at home all the time, so I don't have to buy any new shirts, don't have to buy any new pants. It's wrestling shirts, blue jeans, and when the weather is cold, I did buy a new zip-up hoodie for the Blackpool Combat Club, which is the group that William Regal, John Moxley, and Bryan Danielson have. And I also, about a week and a half ago, got the new issue of Previews.
Yeah, I did too, and I actually got to say, I got the previews, and I got both the Marvel and the DC supplements, so I didn't have to run all over heck to get it.
And did you see, if you go, there are a few things that I want to point out. First, if you go to DC Service.
I want to say something first.
Okay.
Because I've got a comic book that I think is really important, but you cannot get it in previews. There is only one way to pick it up. And I'll talk a little bit more because I did a lot of geeking. But I went down to our friends at Mind's Eye Comic, and they have a exclusive comic called Lake of Tears. It's the first book published by owner Eric Child's own company, Fickett and Thorne Publishing. Lake of Tears is writer, and I'm going to slaughter the name, Kobe Ophel, and artist Setor Fiabzigbies. NOMO award-winning book, published in the United States for the first time. The NOMO Award is a literary award presented by the African Speculative Fiction Society, named after the NOMO. And it's for science fiction, fantasy stories of magic and traditional belief, alternative histories, horror, and strange stuff that might not fit anywhere else. So it's a big deal here. Eric told me the story of how he became aware of this book, and it's a very powerful book. In the future, Cory and I will probably review it. A lot of it is going to the IJM organization, which is in Ghana and helps fight child trafficking and forced child labor. And that's what the story is about. Again, I'm totally short-circuiting this, and I think if anything, we should probably try to get a hold of Eric, because we talked about it quite a bit. I mean, I took a special trip down just to pick it up. It's only going to be available at his store. It's not tremendously expensive, $4.99. So you can give him a quick call. Let's see, Mind's Eye Comic. Let's see, 952-492-9350. I know I slaughtered the poor man's name, but if you have heard of Sator Fiadzigbe, he's also doing Black Panther Legends for Marvel. And Eric showed me the art in Lake of Tears, and then showed me the art that he was doing in Legends. And you can just see the vast improvement that Sator has done in his, well, as he improves with time and things like that, because the story itself was published quite some time ago, but this is the first time it's been released in the United States. Eric was telling me how the name of the company, Thicket and Thorn, was named after something I think he said his grandfather said. He would say, doesn't matter how you get through life, whether you got everything handed to you or you have to go through thicket and thorn, we'll both arrive at the same spot, arriving their dreams. And I hope Eric's listening and tells me, oh God, Ryder, you blew it. But it's just something his grandfather. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you get things handed to you or you work hard to get it. Kind of like me having my comic store. I went through thicket and thorn to get to that. Although I don't feel like it was that tough to get there. Eric was also telling me about another book called Crown, which I'm going to have to hang on as I take out of the bag here, because I want to make sure I get the creators right. This is by creator-writer Crown Shepherd with artist Dodat Asmorol. Eric's actually working on art for one of her issues. She has her own comic book, and it's basically the back cover. Our hair, black hair, has always been a superpower. And that's essentially it. The character, her black hair, gives her her superpower. If you go to crownthewriter.com, you can learn more about this. But it was just interesting because he was explaining that he's been working off and on. Eventually, he'll be, I guess he's working on a second issue. It won't be published through his publishing company. But he was telling me a story about how she would call and say, keep working on it. And then she would call and say, okay, stop working on it, because the book was optioned to be picked up in a production company. Then she called back and said, keep working on the book, because unfortunately the production company was affiliated with Will Smith. And as you know, anything Will Smith is affiliated with right now is kind of poison. So kind of a thing where, you know, in Hollywood's ambition to punish the Smith, they actually kind of hurt Shepherd in a way. Again, two great books. You can get them both at Mind's Eye. Again, give them a call. The Crown you might be able to get anywhere that's smart enough to pick up independent books, but Lake of Tears is exclusively from them. I don't want to talk about the story. It's a very powerful story, very moving story, mostly because I want Cory to pick up the book fresh and just read it when he can finally score himself a copy. So if you're in the Twin Cities, head down to Mind's Eye, pick it up. I talked to him a week or so ago, which is why, I had this whole presentation. I was going to talk. I remembered what he said. And then, last week kind of fell apart, and we're recording this a week later than we normally do. So again, something you're not going to be able to get in previews. You don't have to go buy it on Kickstarter. You can just give him a call, $4.99, pick it up, plus shipping. I'm sure he'll be happy to mail out. Let him know you heard it on this here podcast, because we like Eric, and hopefully Eric likes us, especially after I kind of slaughtered his whole presentation. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I mean, it's I don't want to give too much away in the book. It's a very serious book, and it's very well done. It's again, Lake of Tears, story of captivity and redemption set against Ghana's hazardous inland fishing industry. Beautifully drawn, very imaginative. Originally released online, and this is the first time, at least, it's been published in the United States. If you didn't know it, the author, James Kofi Annan, was a former child slave. Again, there's a lot of background, but the Lake of Tears will entertain, inform, and inspire you to learn more about and hopefully help prevent child trafficking and forced labor going on.
And now we're going to talk about something far less serious.
Very true, but something that we like.
And that's first off in previews. Joe read his previews and sent me a short little message, and I had already noticed it. IDW, which was one of the, what did they call them? I want to make sure premier publishers, has dropped out of being a premier publisher. They are now back with the rest of the independent books, as we call it, the rest of the story. And the reason for that is twofold. One, they have secured other comic distribution, so Diamond is not their primary distribution network anymore. And two, because of that, they no longer make up 5% or more of Diamond sales. To be one of the premier publishers, you have to make up at least 5% of Diamond sales to get that really nice placement at the front of the book where you get more pages and everything. So they have moved to the back. They also are going to be losing Transformers and G.I. Joe, which is, from what I read, at least half of their sales. So if I were IDW, I would be using this year to kind of figure out what they're going to do, because they're a publicly traded company. Did you know that, Joe?
I probably was aware of it. I'm pretty sure we talked about it sometime in the past.
They have not shown a profit in a long time. They showed a profit when the 30 Days a Night movies were making money. They have not had a hit movie in a while. So they've been losing money. They're shuffling people at the top and have been for about a year or so. The other thing I want to point out, if you go to lunardistribution.com, Lunar Distribution, the people who distribute DC Comics and also are the people who own DCB Service, they have a magazine that's only available on that website and over on the DCB Service website called Next Phase. And this is a digital magazine that highlights the comic publishers that they distribute other than DC. So if you download it, let me pull it up here. They have much more information on these companies: Ahoy Comics, Artist Elite, Cathead Comics, Floating World Comics, Merc, Oni Press, Scout, and Vault. And with Diamond, those are kind of in the back where they get, just a small picture of the cover and a small little paragraph. But if you download the Next Phase magazine, each of those books that they put out, like Ahoy, here's an entire page for Guilt, issue 3 of 4, Justice Warriors, number 1 of 6, Let's see, The Wrong Earth, Confidence Men. That's the one by Mark Waid and Leonard Kirk. And so on and so on. Artist Elite, same thing. They get an entire page. Cathead Comics. That's Steve Laffler's publishing company. So I like that next phase because it does kind of highlight some of the indie books that when you look at Diamond, it's over 500 pages. 430 some pages of comics and another 100 and so pages of toys. This highlights those a little more, so you get a little more information, a better look at the art, things like that. And we do this every month, but I explain it every month for the new listeners. We go through previews. We don't point out everything we're going to buy.
No, there's a lot of stuff we do buy, and usually once a year we will mention it. Just things like Amazing Spider-Man. I buy Amazing Spider-Man. I don't mention it every month that we do the preview show because I buy it anyways.
We point out things that are first issues, things that are changes, trade paperbacks and hardcovers. I like to point out trade paperbacks and hardcovers that I already own and think that you might like because they're being reprinted for the first time in a long, long time.
And I'll point out things that are licensed properties that if you don't like it, maybe you know a friend that might dig a My Little Pony omnibus.
So, Joe, we're going to start. Well, first we'll do the cover.
Yep. Cory's big on covers.
Image got the cover with Clementine, which is using the character from the Walking Dead video game. It is a new young adult graphic novel trilogy set in the world of the Walking Dead.
On page 40, by the way, that was one of my first picks, but as long as you're mentioning it.
On the back.
Now, let me ask you something, though. Do you think this has legs?
Oh, yeah. Those games are hugely successful.
No, I mean the Clementine.
Yeah. The video game is hugely successful.
I'm totally. All I saw was a Walking Dead original graphic novel tie-in. I didn't realize that had anything to do with the game.
Yeah, what it is, there's the Walking Dead games, the Telltale video games.
Yeah.
She is the main character and going to be spoiling games that came out 5 years ago. She is the main survivor of the story of those games. So there are people who are really excited about getting this book. It's also a young adult book, which sell well anyway. Robert Kirkman, I think he's got a big hit here. They show some original art from it.
Have you played these games?
Yes, I have.
A worthy tie-in to Walking Dead?
Oh, yes, very much so.
So, again, the takeaway is if you like the game or you like Walking Dead, this is something you definitely want to get on board with.
And with many comic publishers kind of pulling away from Diamond, on the back we have a Gargoyles mini bust or the cartoon from the 90s. And then on the spine, Opus Publications, another tiny little comic company, but they've got a Bill and Ted comic coming out that they hype on the spine.
And I know I've got that mentioned somewhere too, because it's not something I will probably buy. But again, if you're a Bill and Ted fan, so Clementine basically, again, this is a interactive podcast. If you have a copy of your previews and the DC Connect and the Marvel previews, you can go along with it. Like I mentioned, Clementine is in Image, being published by Image, page 40, if you're so inclined. And they also give a couple pages of art, which I love that Image does. They do the full-size pages of art, which sometimes can decide whether or not I'm going to buy something. For example, on page 56, do a power bomb, number 1 of 7. This is, let's see, writer Daniel Warren Johnson, cover. He's the writer artist, and then they have a couple variant covers. Jay Martin does it. Lona Steel Rose wants to be a pro wrestler, but she's living under the shadow of her mother, the best to ever do it. Everything changes when a wrestling-obsessed necromancer asks her to join the grandest pro wrestling tournament of all time, which is also the most dangerous. One page of art shrunk down a little bit. Take out your magnifying glass or readers. You have me at pro wrestling. Love, love, love pro wrestling tie-in comic books. So I'm definitely down for this one, 7-issue miniseries.
For me, there is a new #1 by Chip Zdarsky on page 48 called Public Domain. Sid Dallas is responsible for pop culture's greatest hero, the Domain, but his sons Miles and David have a complicated relationship with both the creation and the creator. Can they convince their dad to fight for their family's legacy? And there are a few pages there. It looks like it's Chip Zdarsky always has a cool twist on his books, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with this. He's one of those creators who I will buy his stuff sight unseen.
As for me, I'm going to wait for the graphic novel on this one.
And that was really it for Image for me.
Oh,
they had very few trade paperbacks this month, which surprised me.
Oh, I got a lot of stuff. So Image is just firing for me this month. On page 58, Seven Sons, a 7-issue miniseries. Robert Wyndham, Kelvin Mao writes it. Jay Lee is the artist. Jay Lee's what caught my attention because he returns to creator-owned comics. It's his first new title since '94. Delph, a young man who may be the second coming of Christ, runs for his life as he attempts to learn the truth behind his existence. Image always likes to kind of tie it together, saying the fugitive meets the Book of Revelation, high stakes, high octane thriller. So I'm definitely looking at that. A couple of books I'll point out that I won't necessarily buy, but on page 63 is the Cyberforce #1 30th anniversary commemorative edition. I've seen a couple of these. I think they were commemorative editions on at some shops, and they're pretty cool. If you like Cyberforce, there's a limited edition, done once, so they're making it available only based on orders. So if you miss out, it's got a special cover on it. It gives you a chance to see what the fun was. The next page I'm a little confused on. Page 64, it's called The Phalanx, one shot by Jonathan Luna. It says inspired since 1992 by the series that launched Image Comics, writer and artist Jonathan Luna, who did Alex and Ada, which I loved, 20XX, which I didn't read, creates a homage to honor its 30th anniversary with the Phalanx. And so I'm not sure if it's original. It's not like a reprint, but he's a Spur, a mercenary in modern day Los Angeles, chases a mysterious villain, finds herself going through a portal and running into a famous super team. They realize they have a common goal. A couple variant covers to choose from. Well, one's a 1 in 10, so it might be a little more expensive. So that's a one shot. I guess it's original. Across from it is Spawn #1 30th anniversary blank sketch cover, in case you happen to run into Todd McFarlane somewhere and you want him to do a sketch for you. Page 66, Super Freaks, one shot. When Finn addicts take control. This celebrates 10 years of the Savage Fincast podcast with an official fan tribute to everyone's favorite Finhead, the Savage Dragon. The fans unite and produce one of the wildest comics ever created. It's crude, it's rude, it's hilarious. A lot of names on it. I'm not going to read them all off. But I'm telling you, Cory, we should be doing we should get our own comic book together. We've got a friend who has his own publishing company. We know plenty of artists. Image is showing us the way. Page 68's got one trade paperback I'm looking at called The Creep. John Arsundi, Dale Eaglesham, Brian O'Donnell. Axel Karnhaus is a private detective like no other. With the face of a brute and the broken heart of a child, He navigates the mean streets of 1980 Manhattan in four neo-noir tales that test his courage, his wits, and his ethical core. So, sounds kind of interesting. And finally, for me, Image on page 70 is a book I talked about when it came out in comic form, Joe Hill's Rain. And this has issues, I believe, 1 through 5. I'll just read the description like I did 6 months ago. On a seemingly normal August day in Boulder, Colorado, the skies are clear and Honeysuckle Speck couldn't be happier. She's finally moving in with her girlfriend, Yolanda, but their world is literally torn apart when dark clouds roll in and release a downpour of nails, splinters of bright crystal that shred the skin of anyone not safely undercover. Rain makes this vivid, escalating apocalyptic event, and as the deluge of nails spreads across the country, around the world, threatening everyone, including the young lovers of Honeysuckle and Yolanda, and everyone that they hold dear. So this is your chance to pick up it's in a hardcover. Probably is a good way to get it. Maybe a soft cover later. I don't know. So again, a lot of things from Image, not including the things I normally pick up. That's it for me. Onward.
Yep, onward. Dark Horse had a lot more than normal for me. First off, on page, doesn't give a page number on that page, but it is page 99. We Have Demons by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. It's a trade paperback. It is the collection of a 3-issue miniseries that also, if you subscribe to Scott Snyder's Stack Square or Stack Space or whatever that is, you already got it digitally, but he's going through Dark Horse for the printing. Since the very dawn of man, legends have been told of the conflict between angel and demon kind. Lam Lyle, a woman of science, dismisses these stories as just that, fiction, but when the loss of a loved one leads to the discovery of a hulking, benevolent demon named Helvis, Lam realizes that her life is about to undergo a dire new direction. This is the team that did Batman when it was relaunched back during the New 52, which is one of the successful New 52 books. Greg Capullo, who basically got his start on the X-Men books and then drew Spawn forever and ever and ever. And Scott Snyder, who did a lot of DC stuff, even was behind the death metal and heavy metal and metal at DC. Then if you go to page 107, the BRPD, which is basically it's the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense in the Hellboy universe. They're putting those books out as omnibuses now. So you can continue to get your Hellboy stuff in the omnibus form, which I much prefer it in. This will be a collection of the BPRD stories in a single series of 10 volumes. So it's going to be the whole run of that long-running book, as well as on page 109, Joe Gollum, Occult Detective, another Mike Mignola series.
Yeah, I got that one down.
Woo! They're going after me here. I do want to point out that the next 2 pages, 110 and 111, are the Brian Michael Bendis stuff. The Pearl series that he did over at DC. The third volume is starting as individual comics. This is about a female tattoo artist who finds out that her mother was the head of the Yakuza, and now she is going to become the head of the Yakuza. But there's something odd about her that is the same thing that was odd about her mother. When she is stressed, tattoos begin to appear on her skin that give her special powers. The next page is the collection of the Dark Horse miniseries Bendis did called Joy Operations. And then they also reprint the book that he did way, 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 way back, the early 90s, at Caliber Press, aka Goldfish, which is now just called Goldfish. So Bendis's creator-owned stuff showing up over at Dark Horse. There is also the series Black Hammer, which recently wound up. It was a superhero series by Jeff Lemire. That's getting the Dark Horse Omnibus treatment, and the first volume is available. This book collects Black Hammer 1 through 13 and Black Hammer Giant-Sized Annual. They ended the story with that crossover with the Justice League, I do believe. Joe, do you have anything before I keep going?
Oh, I got tons of stuff, but you're on a roll. I was going to just let you keep going.
All right.
I'm way back on page 96 with Lonesome Hunter, #1, a 4-issue miniseries by Tyler Crook. An old and out-of-practice monster hunter in hiding crosses paths with a young girl that forces him to confront these chaotic creatures. As the beasts invade their tenement, they set off on a supernatural road trip to stop these ancient evils, in a story that explores the ways that youth informs adulthood and how early traumas can haunt us in old age. Kind of a coming-of-age fantasy. 2 pages of art. I tend to buy these things in miniseries because what I do is once I read them, if I like them, they go into my collection. If not, I put them on the eBays. Like Cory, you mentioned We Have Demons. I bought the miniseries, and I think so far only 1 is out. If maybe 2, I got to put them together. But once I get all 3 together, I'll read them, and we may revisit them in a future podcast. Page 103, a 4-issue series, The Ward. Kevin Scott, Andres Ponce. The writer, of course, is from Star Wars: The High Republic. This is an intense medieval drama brimming with fairies, trolls, and real human pathos. St. Lilith is a secret hospital for supernatural creatures. The personnel are overworked. The facility is underfunded. It's a place and a life Dr. Nat Reeves thought she left behind until a wounded woman with a tail appears on her doorstep. So for 4 issues, I'll give that one a shot. You already talked about the Joe Gollum Occult Omnibus, which I've never read, and as an omnibus, I'll pick that sucker up. That sounds a pretty good deal. I've only got 2 more things. What else you got going, Cory?
Page 121, Tarzan of the Apes, Volume 1 by Roy Thomas and Pablo Marcos. What is going on with the Tarzan books and comics and stuff? Roy Thomas has been doing Tarzan comics on the Edgar Rice Burroughs website for the past few years. They've never been printed in the U.S. They are mostly made for foreign markets because Tarzan is far more popular overseas than he is here in the U.S. But they are going to start printing them in these beautiful hardcovers. This is, presenting the origin of the Jungle Lord and his earliest adventures. Any Tarzan comic collection begins with Tarzan of the Apes, presented in a Sunday newspaper landscape format. This is an adaptation of the first novel. Then, if you head over to page 124, our EC reprint this month. This is the Crime Patrol Volume 1 hardcover. If you are a hardcore EC fan who must have everything, you should get this book. If you are not, pass this by. This is pre-New Trend, which was when they started doing the horror books, weird science, weird fantasy, Tales from the Crypt, all of those. This is before that, so the stories are not very good. They are pretty much all written by Gardner Fox, who wrote for DC at the time, and Al Feldstein. They are watered down crime comics because at the time you had Crime Does Not Pay, and you had a huge boom in crime comics that were really violent books. EC did them because they were popular, but they didn't go as hardcore as the other publishers did. So these kind of come off as pretty lame. And that is more than enough for my wallet.
Well, I've got 2 more books to add. Page 119, Always Never Trade paperback. After 40 years, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names. Lefebvre, Sapien. After 40 years of being madly in love, Anna and Zeno are finally retiring and giving their romance a chance to bloom while they both still have time left. A unique but relatable love story told in reverse, with each chapter stepping further back through the decades of touch and go courting, showing both the heartbreaking moments that kept the two lovers apart and the beautiful moments that kept their flame alive. This isn't a tale of misconnections and regret, but rather a story celebrating the complexities of family, responsibility, destiny, and how love persists across time, and with complete disregard for all of that. And the last thing I got is on page 122, Kaylee hardcover from Daniel Friedman and Mondo and dice artist Robert Samalin. It's original graphic novel, non-stop high-octane existential action spectacle. Is that enough for you? Stabbed in the back, poisoned, and left for dead by her own biker gang, Kaylee sets off on a one-way road of vengeance across a war-torn desert battlefield. With impending death coursing through her veins and a fascist army hot on her tail, Kaylee will stop at nothing to get her revenge. Why do I see a movie coming out of that? And that's it for me for Dark Horse.
Now, do we want to continue on with Dynamite and Boom before we go to the other publishers that have vacated previews?
Sure. Because for me, I've got like two things and some stuff to point out. Right away on page 132, if you're a Red Sonja fan, how about Samurai Sonja? Get ready to meet an all-new Sonja in a setting you never expected. The Sengoku period of Japan, a time of near constant civil war. Sonja, daughter of slain samurai, is eager to prove herself worthy of her family's glorious history. But in a desperate moment, Sonja will make an awful deal with the dread sea goddess. She will be gifted magic armor and weapons capable of slaying mythical beasts, but if she falls in battle, her bloodline will be erased and her family's name will be no more. I really don't see the Sonja connection other than there is some chainmail and a big sword because she's not a redhead, but this actually looks real interesting. And apparently, well, there's a ton of variant covers that come with it as well. The other thing I'm going to point out, and this is on the, if I can afford it, on page 138 is Miss Fury Joy Division original graphic novel hardcover signed book plate edition, signed by Bill Tucci. Guy did she and all that stuff. And this is a new original graphic novel starring the one of the Golden Age's greatest heroes, Bill Tucci, along with artists Maria Laura Sapano and Edu Mina, delve into the deep, dark secrets of the Nazi regime during the Second World War. And again, this is a signed original graphic novel featuring, let's see, blah, 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 fits into a continuity gap in the original storylines of Miss Fury taking place in the summer of 1944. First time offered to the direct market. So I'm wondering if this might have been available as a Kickstarter somewhere. So anything you got before I launch into some things I just like to point out?
I did not have anything from Dynamite.
Dynamite. On page 150, 151s, the things I absolutely love, the various one-shots being offered to the direct market for the first time. They're usually higher price. For example, if you want the Reanimator original commission cover art with an original hand-drawn sketch cover by legendary Bronze Age artist Joe Del Bito, it's only a mere $250. There's a J. Lee metallic cover for Betty Page, Curse of the Banshee. Across from it, some more coins, another Red Sonja collectible coin, some of the older ones offered again, a legacy board game, some pins, just the type of things when I had my comic store that I would get in just because you don't see these everywhere you go. And believe me, I hit almost every comic store in town. And that's it for me for previews. I'm sorry, yeah, I wish. For Dynamite.
Boom!
I got nothing.
I had one thing in Boom.
Not saying that I don't buy things from Boom, but everything I buy, I already get. What you got?
Page 185, regarding the matter of Oswald's body.
Oh, now see, this is one that I bought as a comic book.
Where is Lee Harvey Oswald's body? The Kennedy assassination is a rat nest of conspiracy theories, mafia involvement, a second gunman, a government cover-up. But the most important one may just be the idea that the body in Oswald's grave is not actually Lee Harvey. Meet the ragtag group of useful idiots unwittingly brought together to clean up the crime of the century. A wannabe cowboy from Wisconsin, a Buddy Holly idolizing car thief, a world-weary civil rights activist ready for revolution, and a failed G-man who still acts the part. This is by Christopher Cantwell, Luca Castiglione. They don't have any art other than the cover, but I like the idea. It sounds like a fun thing that could be turned into a movie at some point, which is what a lot of these Boom books are. And I like conspiracy theory stories. The person who did the best conspiracy theory stories ever was Stephen Grant, who does not believe in any conspiracy theories. But boy, when he would sit down to do it as a story, they would be just fascinating to me because he would pull together all these different threads. If you ever see the book Badlands, it is his version of the Kennedy assassination that will just make your head spin. It's so weird and fun and good. And I'm hoping this one will be a lot like that.
Yeah, I've got the 5 issues. Well, I don't think all 5 are out yet, but if you get this, we'll have to read it and maybe we'll do a joint joint review.
And
it's
now,
the same thing. Like on the next page, you got issue 9 of Berserker, the one that Keanu Reeves and Matt Kindy with Ron Garney are doing. I'm waiting for the graphic novel on that one.
Same here.
Yep. And now,
DC Comics.
All right, everybody, grab your DC Connect. This is issue number 23 for April 2022. And I'm going to start out right away on page 2. Dark Crisis, DC's blockbuster summer event begins. It's an epic event, years in the making. It's finally here. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the rest of the Justice League are dead. The remaining heroes are left to protect the world from an onslaught of violent attacks by DC's greatest villains. Can the legacy heroes step out of the shadows of the classic heroes to form a new Justice League? And will that be enough to stop a darkness greater than anything they've ever faced from destroying everything? Tons of not yet, variant covers to choose from. If I had a choice, I kind of like, well, on the next page, maybe that's just art. They got a beautiful picture of all the heroes and the legacy heroes and that I thought that was a cover. That might actually be like the splash page. I think I might just go for the main wraparound cover. That one looks pretty sweet. What would you choose, Corey, if price wasn't the object?
Let's see. If price wasn't the object, I would just go with the cover that they show on page 2. I think that's the best of all the covers, honestly.
Yeah, it's a wraparound. You see the full one on the next page. So there is a crossover comic with it. I probably will buy it because it's Young Justice, Dark Crisis Young Justice on page 6. Crises have always had a devastating impact on the generation of heroes that make up Young Justice, and Dark Crisis will hit them even harder. Tim Drake, Impulse, and Superboy are missing during the Justice League's funeral. The only person concerned enough to find them, Cassie Sandermark, a.k.a. Wonder Girl. But the 3 boys of Young Justice aren't even on this earth anymore. They're on a world of their dreams, and they may never want to leave. 4 pages of art you can kind of tease yourself with. This is a 6-issue series, probably designed to sandwich between the 7-issue main series. And if this is the only series that's going to go out with this, I will probably pick it up as well.
I should also let you know that there was a news story that leaked over the weekend about this. So there's going to be some rewriting. There's going to be some different changes going on. We'll hear more about it in the weeks to come. But
and there's even a bigger twist. we'll talk about that when we get to Freaking and Geeking.
Yeah. For me, the first book that I'm looking at is on page 12, Poison Ivy #1, written by G. Willow Wilson, who's a writer that I absolutely love her stuff. I have yet to read a bad book from her. Pamela Isley has been a lot of things in her life: a living god, a supervillain, an activist, a scientist, and dead. In a new body she didn't ask for, with a renewed sense of purpose, Ivy leaves Gotham and sets out to complete her greatest work, a gift to the world that will heal the damage dealt to it by ending humanity. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Art is by Marcio Takara. It's like everything else, has a half ton of covers and everything. I will be picking this up as a trade, but if you buy your comics as regular comics, you'll want to pick this up. G. Willow Wilson never, ever, ever fails to write a fascinatingly well done book. And if you go to page 13, you get to see the Frank Cho variant cover.
Good luck
your shop has to order 50 copies of #1 to get.
Yeah. Back on page 8, Black Adam #1, written by Christopher Priest, art by Rafa Sandoval. There is no forgiveness for Black Adam. This is the reality 10th Adam, immortal man of indomitable will, must face when he discovers he has been infected with an incurable plague, destroying his immortality. Haunted by the specter of centuries of dark deeds, Black Adam transfers his power to a worthy successor who will redeem his legacy and defend his ancestral homeland, only to subsequently become mystically handcuffed to him when Adam's plague is arrested, giving birth to perhaps the most violent and dysfunctional super team in DC's history. Not a lot of art, a lot of variant covers. The team variant looks good. And this is a ongoing series. Yep. So this should be interesting to see where they go with this one. After all that, all I got left are trades.
I have a few. On page 14, we have DC Pride 2022. This is a 100-page giant, 13 all-new stories featuring LGBTQ characters, new and old. Stories by Devin Grayson, Stephanie Williams, Travis Moore, Alyssa Wong. Art by Nick Nobles, Brittany Williams, Evan Cagle, W. Scott Forbes. Covers by Phil Jimenez. There are pinups from P. Craig Russell and J.J. Kirby. I'm a sucker for these anthology books. They look like both Marvel and DC are going to be doing these every year now for Pride Month. And the one they did last year I enjoyed, so I'm looking forward to getting this one. Now, because I didn't get my regular copy yet, I'm still getting the digital copy. I do have to kind of flip through weirdly. And there were not a lot of trade paperbacks for me either.
Yeah, I had, actually, this is going to be shocking. My first one is one I'm just pointing out. It's not something I'm buying, but if you have a young friend who likes to dress up as Robin and patrol the neighborhood, this may be a book he might be finding on his doorstep. Batman's Mystery Case Book on page 30. As we all know, Batman's a great detective, but he rarely works alone. His sidekicks Robin and Batgirl, his butler Alfred, and the police of Gotham City all play a role in helping him keep his city safe. You can too. Look for clues, analyze evidence, solve riddles, learn history. Help the Batman as he goes on his adventure and see if you can spot answers to these mysteries before he logs them into his casebook. It's let's see, $10 soft cover. I imagine more for younger kids, but just looks amazing. And I think, again, if you have a friend who has a kid, or you know a kid, or you are a kid, this looks like it'd be a lot of fun.
Page 25 is another of DC's 100-page anthology books. This one's set in the Milestone universe, Milestones in History. The Dakota universe is built on the shoulders of giants, and it's time for their stories to be told. In this massive, oversized special, a who's who of talent from many disciplines tell the tale of trailblazing Black and African figures throughout every era of humanity, from the realms of literature, aviation, music, dance, military conquest, and more. Plus, don't miss the shocking final page reveal. I missed that in comics. I was looking at a bunch of 70s comics covers, and it seems like every other one was, don't tell anybody about the shocking guest villain. So we're going to have a shocking final page reveal. For books, I did not buy the Brightest Day Omnibus because it came out when I was not working at a job where I had enough money to buy omnibuses. So I am going to be picking up this second printing of the Brightest Day Omnibus.
And I believe I've already got it, so I'm not.
I am tempted by the book Pennyworth, which is the what Alfred did before he worked for Bruce Wayne. Well, he was a spy. There's a series that used to be on, I think it was Epix. Now it's, now that we have HBO Max, it's moved over to HBO Max. This is a tie-in to that. Looks fun. I like trade paperbacks. And I have yet to watch the series. I am not buying it because I already have it. But on page 48, Animal Man Omnibus.
Yeah, I got to get that. I've been looking for one for a while. As long as they got a new print, I am going to pick this baby up.
This is one of my favorite comic stories of all time. Grant Morrison, I think it's kind of the first thing he did. This and Doom Patrol were the things that kind of made his name.
Yeah.
And this is a book where it ties into Crisis on Infinite Earths. There's a weird sort of tie-in to Our Earth. And it was kind of the first time where DC let a British writer other than Alan Moore just do whatever the hell they wanted. Fantastic series, still holds up. And it ties in with the Bwahaha Justice League, believe it or not.
Now, if you pop back to page 45, I'm going to pick up another omnibus. 2 DC omnibuses this month, which means one of them will get canceled. Batman's No Man's Land Omnibus Volume 2, because I don't have any No Man's Land in my collection. I did pick up Omnibus 1, so I'll pick up Omnibus 2.
I still remember when this story came out, saying this is a stupid idea. There is no way the federal government, after a disaster, would just tell an entire city, you're on your own. Then New Orleans happened.
Yeah. People seem to forget Centralia in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Really a great story. Lasted a year in the Batman books. Kind of Denny O'Neil's last big Batman story. I have it in trade paperbacks, so I didn't buy it again in omnibuses. But that's it for me for DC.
Me as well.
Now it's time for Marvel Previews.
All right, this is Marvel Previews number 7, April for June 22nd. And again, not too far in, almost page number 1. Eve of Judgment. This is the summer blockbuster. This is the, prequel, equal of Eve of Judgment. Does something tie in from Free Comic Book Day with this, or is that Spider-Man? Okay, so there is
both.
There is a Free Comic Book Day thing you're going to want to pick up. This is a crossover with Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals. The Eternals know that the mutants have conquered death, but what are they going to do about it? The oldest immortals on Earth eye up the newest, and the doomsday clock starts to tick towards Judgment Day.
I like the idea of it, where basically it's the same Kieran Gillian's writing some X-Men stuff, has been writing the Eternals, and has basically been building up to this, because with the X-Men being able to bring anybody back from the dead, they are almost setting themselves up as gods, and the Eternals are, no, you're not gods, we are. And the Avengers will be stuck between them.
Yeah.
Another new Captain America series. We're getting 2 Captain America series, Joe. One where Steve Rogers is Captain America, and that is called Sentinel of Liberty. And the one that started last month, which is Sam Rogers as Captain America as Symbol of Truth. We're also getting a new Daredevil #1, which picks up from where the Devil's Reign story ends. However, it's still Chip Zdarsky. It's just things have changed. Daredevil's not in prison anymore.
Ooh. See, back on page 2, if you're a Fortnite fan, Fortnite X Marvel Zero War 5-issue crossover where the Marvel Universe collides with Fortnite. I mentioned that, like I mentioned earlier, I don't play Fortnite, no clue what it is, don't care. But if you do, this has got you all over it. Other than that, the next thing I'm excited about is on page 18, Amazing Spider-Man number 900. It's actually number 6, but what they do is when they get to the landmark issues, they use the legacy number, make a special, thick, expensive $10 book, get a whole bunch of people involved with it, give you a ton and a half of variant covers, and just have some fun with it. And of course, it ties into the regular storyline where someone from Spider-Man's past has captured the Sinister Six and used them to create the truly terrifying Sinister Adaptoid. You will not believe the ending. Sort of what you're talking about, right, Corey?
Yeah.
You will not believe it. They don't really show the variant covers, but if I had a choice, I always like Peach, Momoku, Machiavelli, Ramos. A Virgin variant cover by John Romita Jr. Yeah, good luck with that one, baby. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Page 24, Genis Bell, Captain Marvel. Peter David writing. Now back among the land of the living, Genis Bell and Rick Jones are about to come crashing into each other. Witness Genis Bell, who was Captain Marvel, return to the pages of his very own series written by Peter David, who wrote every issue of that series. Can Rick Jones save Genis and himself before they both fade out of existence? Is Rick's ex-wife Marlo the key? Find out where Peter David returns to take Genis Bell to new heights. I think it would be a good idea to give him a different name, since we already have one Captain Marvel, although Marvel has no problem with having like 42 different Spider-Mans running around.
Spider-Man.
I'm looking forward to this one. Also, there is Defenders Beyond by Al Ewing and Javier Rodriguez. They follow up their acclaimed Defenders There Are No Rules series with another mini-series. Let's see, Loki, Doctor Strange, Blue Marvel, America Chavez. I can't pronounce this. Taaia. Too many vowels there. Galactus's mom. Tigrel and Loki assembled to defend reality itself, and you won't believe who shows up on the final page.
Oh, a lot of final page spoils. On page 31, the variants. Gail Simone, Phil Noto. What would it really be like to meet an alternative version of yourself? Another you who had made different choices and lived completely different life as a result. That's the question facing Jessica Jones, as what seems like a routine investigation instead has her encountering other incarnations of herself from across the multiverse. Can Jessica get along with herself? Will she want to kill her other selves? And will seeing the life she could have had drive her into a self-destructive spiral? 5-issue miniseries, a couple variant covers, of course. I'll probably try to get the Scotty Young one, although the Ben Cadwell one looks pretty good. And so this, another good miniseries. How about page 32, Corey? Does that one catch your attention?
Which one is that?
Clobberin' Time, 5-issue series.
Yeah, Steve Scrose, whose art I really like. I have not read a lot of stuff that he's written, though. But I like The Thing, and I like Steve Scrose's art, so I'll be picking that one up.
Oh, yeah, and it's a miniseries, too. As is Ant-Man across from it. Another miniseries. I tell you, Marvel must have heard how much I love Dark Horse's miniseries, because they're really banging out the miniseries. And they might as well. You got all these characters that are making a splash over on Netflix. You might as well try to see if you can get some crossover. And in this case, it's a 5-issue series. Al Ewing, Tom Riley doing the art. Flashback to the early days of Hank Pym's career as the astonishing Ant-Man. Date night for Hank and his girlfriend, Janet Van Dyne. Never last. But no one told that to Ant-Man's enemies. Egghead, I hope. Watch as Hank's antagonists band together to finally take down the scientific adventurer. But will anyone come to his rescue? And who is the mysterious stranger who stalks him? You'll find out on the last page. No, I'm kidding. But again, some fun with some miniseries, or wait for the inevitable graphic novel.
On page 39, we get another Marvel Voices. This is their Pride anthology. $10 for 90 pages. Just 10 more, and you could have. And never mind.
Never mind.
Let's see. We got New York Times best-selling, multi-award-winning author Charlie Jane Anders introduces a new hero to the Marvel Universe. Iron Man scribe Christopher Cantwell takes on Moondragon's complex legacy. Schuster and Eisner award-winning writer Andrew Wheeler makes his Marvel debut with the Marvel Universe's real god of love, Hercules. Nebula, World Fantasy and Locus Award winner Alyssa Wong reunites the Young Avengers. You've got a variant cover by our pal Amy Reeder. Looks like it's going to be another one of those good books. I'm really excited about this one.
For me, I'm going back in time a bit. On page 66, you got the 2 facsimile editions for the month. One is Tomb of Dracula #1, which would be kind of fun to read because they reprint in the original forms, ads and all. This is written by Gary Conway, penciled by Gene Colan, which would be real cool to see his art on decent paper. Above it, Tales of Suspense #57, facsimile edition, written by some guy, Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, and never last. Penciled by Don Heck, Larry Lieber. This, of course, I believe Hawkeye's first appearance.
Yes.
Which could be why he's all over it.
You may want to go back to page 42.
Black Widows, is it?
No, it's Hawkeye. You may want to go back to page 42.
Well, life, universe, and everything, good enough for me.
The new Fantastic Four Marvel Tales.
Oh, yeah.
They are reprinting the 3 issues that were done by Walt Simonson and Art Adams with the new Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and the Hulk, which was very much, at the time, they were like, oh, yeah, you're just trying to get the sales bump. And
I said, you're right.
And it's a tie-in to the new miniseries that they're doing as well by Peter David. But that Art Adams art was so beautiful in that story.
And the covers and the humor, and even on the last page, the surprising guest star or guest appearance of the Punisher, who showed up too late to do anything.
Yes,
but he was there. I probably should have jumped a spoiler warning for that one.
Its story's 30 years old.
Still.
We don't worry about spoilers for things. I think our spoiler limit should be like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Or at least till the trade comes out. We'll give you 6 months after the trade.
Okay.
I have not bought a lot of Star Wars. I've kind of backed off. Is Star Wars on Marvel?
Yes.
Unlimited?
Star Wars is on Marvel Unlimited. Conan is not.
Interesting. So is Savage Avengers?
Savage Avengers is. It's the Conan stories and the Conan stuff from the past are not on there.
So, but this is one on page 82 I'll recommend because this is Mandalorian #1. For the first time, Mandalorian's in comics. And you know how first appearances could be. If not, go back and look up, is it the Darth Vader #3, the first appearance of Dr. Alpha?
Yeah.
Covering, $300 in mint shape? So, again, this comes with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different variant covers. Pick them all up. I'm going for the variant cover of the action figure. The big one, obviously, will be any of the ones that are more higher priced. I haven't looked at the price to figure out which ones are rarer. But again, first appearance, I can't tell. Is this a one-shot or a beginning of a series?
Yeah, I can't tell either.
It doesn't say either. Well, I'll figure it out. Somebody, Marvel, give us a call on our hotline.
Operators standing by.
Or at very least, spotting by. I got nothing else comic-wise. Anything else catch your attention, Corey?
Not comic-wise, so it's time to go to where my money goes.
I've got one thing.
One?
One thing, and it's a maybe. Now, you already know I've got 2 omnibuses and that Joe Gollum thing, which is an omnibus by a different name. On page 93, Spider-Man 2099 omnibus. It's the only one I'm considering buying. You know, and again, there's that sign book I talked about, the Miss Fury hardcover, and you know how I feel about sign books. Love them. But this is Peter David again, his original run of Spider-Man 2099, and
it's the whole thing.
Yeah, including the crossover, the annual, Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2099 special. So, and if I get the choice of covers, I'm going for the original one that, do they credit who did that? I can't read that. Leonardo and...
Rick Leonardi. And then the other one is by Jim Fern.
Williamson. Yeah, I will go with the original one if I do buy this. But again, this is an if. So far it's DC 2, Marvel maybe 1, and I got nothing else, no other trades I'm buying. But this is where I like to sit back and listen to Corey, because every so often you'll say something and I'll go, okay, I'll pick that up.
Page 94, Savage Avengers by Gary Duggan Omnibus. This is the entire series, which was one story. A lot of different artists. It was started by Mike Deodato Jr. It was his last thing he did at Marvel. You had Butch Geist, Patrick Zircher, Ron Garney, John Romita Jr. The story is that Kulan Goth has shown up in the current Marvel universe, as has Conan. And Conan, kind of by accident, pulls together a number of characters to try to stop Kulan Goth from taking over the current Marvel universe. Excellent story. I loved this, and it was one that I was not interested in at all. Because it was, Conan's going to be pulling together a bunch of Avengers. Ugh, that just sounds stupid. But I was given the first trade paperback, and then I was hooked. Absolutely hooked. I had to read it. I went through the entire story on Marvel Unlimited in less than a week. Such a great story. Builds never even though it's one story, it never sags. It never feels like it also never feels like they're padding it out. Very much feels like a full novel. And that's one of the things I like about Gary Duggan's stuff. When he does a series, you can read it as regular issues, but it's meant to be read as a novel. This is going to be fantastic in a collected edition. I missed this the first time it was out, and it sold out immediately. Avengers by Busiek and Perez, Omnibus Volume 1, new printing. This is the Heroes Return by Busiek and Perez, possibly the best Avengers run of all time. It reprints Avengers 0 through 23, annual 98-99, the tie-in issues, as well as Kurt Busiek's Avengers Forever, where he did a miniseries that cleaned up every continuity error up to that point. Everything after that, you can't blame him for. But he fixed every continuity error up to that point.
And I have all these in the original issues, plus all the variant covers, and I'm still thinking. So DC 2, Marvel, maybe 2. And there's Dr. Elfrod that I just mentioned earlier.
This is a reprint of the first one already.
Mm-hmm.
But on the next page, War of the Bounty Hunters, which was the big Star Wars crossover that the Marvel Comics did, where They've got to fill in a gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So how did they do that? Boba Fett lost Han Solo. And other bounty hunters were fighting over who would take him to see Jabba the Hutt to make money. I read the first few issues and thought, okay, this is fun. I'm going to wait until it's collected in a book. There you go. It's collected in a book. It is 848 pages. So they stretched that story out a long way. And the other omnibus that is being printed that I'm not interested in, but there may be people who are, X-Men, the animated series, the adaptations. They are adapting. When the X-Men animated series was on TV on Fox in the 90s, they did a comic for each episode of the series. And I'm not big on adaptations. But if you are, here you go, the entire thing in one big omnibus. Let's see, for the Masterworks, we've got the 4th volume of Ghost Rider when the book was unreadable. And the 2nd volume of Tomb of Dracula, which I don't need to get because I have all of Tomb of Dracula in omnibus form. But the Marvel Masterworks still chugging along, working their way into the 70s and 80s. Because there's going to be a new Thor movie coming out in the end of summer, they're got a nice spread here to have you get caught up if you're a comic shop to fill your shelves with Thor graphic novels. And now we get to regular trade paperbacks and stuff. Silver Surfer Rebirth, which is by Ron Mars and Ron Lim. I reviewed the first issue a couple months ago. Really enjoyed it. I will be picking up this trade paperback because I like Ron Lim's art and I like Ron Mars on Silver Surfer. They basically pick up in the middle at the end of their run of the Silver Surfer to tell a story based in that continuity back then. It's a nostalgia thing. If you weren't reading comics and didn't like Silver Surfer back in the 90s, you're not going to get anything out of this. But it's a good nostalgia pop. Really good story for people who enjoy that. And I love Ron Lim's art. Ron Lim is one of those artists I think never got his due because his stuff is clean. He's a lot like Sal Buscema in that you could pick up a Ron Lim book, you know you're going to get a well-drawn superhero book. He's never put out a book that's not easy and fun to read. Elektra, Black, White, and Blood Treasury Edition. These Black, White, and Blood series, when they put them out as trade paperbacks, the first one they put out is Treasury Edition, which is the size of the old treasuries from the 70s. And because these are highly art-focused books, I like this format better because the art is bigger. It just pops off the page when it's bigger that way. Still doing the Reign of X trade paperbacks. They're up to Reign of X number 14. I don't know if they're going to be continuing to do these after the Reign of X story is over, but we'll see. I hope so, because this is how I like to read the X-Men books. And, the next big thing, written by Walter Mosley, who writes the Easy Rollins mystery novels, out as a trade paperback. This is another one where I reviewed the first issue and enjoyed it, but decided I was going to wait for the trade paperback. Walter Mosley's one of my favorite writers. If you've ever seen the movie Devil in the Blue Dress from the 90s, he's the guy who wrote that. Excellent mystery writer. This is a really good story. But on the same page, Marvel Snapshots, trade paperback. What this is, after they did a series called Marvel Snapshots, curator Kurt Busiek and an awesome assemblage of talent present stories featuring some of Marvel's greatest heroes seen through the eyes of the ordinary residents of the Marvel Universe. From some mariner fighting in World War II to the dawn of the Marvel Age to a very different conflict of the superhuman Civil War, witness the lives, loves, and losses of everyday people caught up in the adventures of Spider-Man, Captain America, etc., etc. I liked these stories when they came out, and the lineup is killer. Kurt Busiek, Alan Brenneret, Evan Dorkin, Sarah Dwyer, Mark Russell, Barbara Randall, Carl Kessel, Howard Chaykin, Mark Wade, penciled by Jerry Ordway, Howard Chaykin, Ryan Kelly, Tom Riley, cover by Alex Ross. This is a fantastic standalone trade paperback, one that you will be very happy to buy over and over again. Well, hopefully you just buy it once and read it over and over again. But Epic Collections. We've got the Avengers, the Kang War, which is Avengers 129 through 149, which is the Steve Englehart stories where George Perez came on. And Steve Englehart kind of realized, hey, Kang travels through time, so why does it, after he get beat, he just show up again? And if he gets beat again, show up again. And if he gets beat, shows up again. This is also the run that got Steve Englehart fired because he had fill-ins almost every other month. We have another Doctor Strange Epic Collection. This is the Infinity War, which is number 10. Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme 34 through 47. Power Man Iron Fist number 4, which completes the Power Man Iron Fist series. And I will say, to the end of time, the last issue of Power Man Iron Fist had one of the dumbest endings of all time. And I'm glad that, what was it, like it took him 8 years to go back and go, yeah, we got to fix that. Another Daredevil. This is Daredevil 234 through 252. What this was a weird time with Daredevil. They had just done the Born Again series, and Frank Miller said he was going to take a 6-month break and then come back and write Daredevil some more. And Walt Simonson was going to write the 6 issues in between. Well, Walt Simonson was too busy, couldn't write those 6 issues in between. Frank Miller decided, yeah, DC's giving me a buttload of money to do Dark Knight Returns, so I'm not coming back. So really, they were just kind of vamping with Daredevil for a few months till they realized, oh, Frank Miller's not coming back. Maybe we ought to get a regular creative team on this book. And it ended literally with them giving it to Ann Nocenti going, well, she's editing the X-Men. She's in the office every day. She wants to write it. Yeah, let her do it. But it was basically almost all fill-ins for this period. We get some Star Wars Epic Collections reprinting the Dark Horse stuff. And then the rest of the Epic Collections are reprints. 2 Fantastic Four reprints. Mystery of the Black Panther, which is Fantastic Four 52 to 67. The new Fantastic Four, which is Fantastic Four 347 to 361. Captain America, they're reprinting Volume 4, which is when Stan Lee left the book and Gary Friedrich and Steve Englehart took over. And that, the last thing is the smaller Marvel Masterworks is X-Men Volume 2, which is when Jack Kirby left the book, Stan Lee stayed on it, and it was drawn by Werner Roth, who one of the most boring pencilers in the Marvel age. He did it. He did a serviceable job, but going from Jack Kirby's kinetic art to Werner Roth, where everybody always looks like they're sitting around all the time, that had to be jarring. And that is it for Marvel. Boy, they got a lot of books.
Now, like the first season of Gilligan's Island, and the rest. Starting on page 212, Dirty Pictures.
I got that one too.
Abrams Press. Yes, it's a hardcover book by Brian Doherty. In Dirty Pictures, how an underground network of nerds, feminists, misfits, geniuses, bikers, potheads, printers, intellectuals, and art school rebels revolutionized art and invented comics. Comics with an X. Brian tells the wild history of the outlaw, outsider, and sometimes illegal world of underground comics, with a narrative that weaves together stories of Harvey Kurtzman, R. Crumb, Tina Robbins, Spain Rodriguez, Art Spiegelman, among many others. Doherty details in the first complete narrative history of this movement the local scenes that sprang up in the 1960s and 70s in New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Cleveland, Chicago, and provides insight into the rivalries, ideological battles, I think that's the second time I've said that word this time, and conflicts that flourished. Definitely comic history. I bought a lot of underground comics as a kid, so for me this would be kind of fun to read and see how it all comes together. Kitty corner to that, before we get too far along, Action Lab Danger Zone, Hamelin number 1, a new age, in quotation, adults start slaughtering kids under the age of 18 all across the U.S. In Brooklyn, Edward, Kelly, Josh struggle to survive, avoiding the assault of their teacher and a vicious janitor. Their only chances to survive is to head towards an abandoned metro station. 6-issue miniseries from Action Lab, The Danger Zone. Danger's their business. So those are two that I recommend right off the bat, right in the beginning. What you got, Mr. Schroed?
On page 2, is it 284? Yes, 284. As a Cartoonist by Noah Van Scriver. Noah Van Scriver is Ethan Van Scriver's brother, and he's the sane one. He also does more indie underground stuff. A series of comic strips joined together by the theme of cartooning reveal a funny and often poignant reflection of the lives we choose to live. Van Scriver juxtaposes fictional stories about what life as a 19th century cartoonist might have been like with autobiographical strips about life as a contemporary cartoonist, along with pieces about his father and childhood that inform the path his life has chosen. I like his books. This is the latest book that he's done, so I will be picking it up as well. Fantagraphics also has a whole bunch of Disney reprints, so if you have been looking to get your classic Disney on, go to page 287. Lots and lots and lots of Carl Barks stuff being reprinted here this month.
I've got 3 comics from Aftershock. They start back on page 214. The first one, A Calculated Man. A verifiable math genius, Jack Beans used to run numbers for the Pinafore crime family until one day he ran them too well and concluded that the only way out of this life was in a casket or witness protection. So he turned state's evidence and ran. However, the Pinafores are out to end their favorite accountant. Little do they know that Jack's skill with math and his perfect memory have made him a better killer than they could have ever realized. What follows is a journey of murder, mayhem, and mathematics. I guess it's a new series, so it should be going on for a bit. Next page, 216, Astronaut Down. Douglas Spitzer wants to be one of the astronauts selected for the crucial mission Pulitzer. And just like astronauts like Buzz Aldrin and Sally Ride, Douglas is brave, adaptable, and self-sacrificing. He's one of the program's best candidates. But if he qualifies, Douglas won't be traveling through space. He'll be launched into alternative realities on a desperate mission to save Earth from a horrific crisis that will appear on the last page. No, I'm sorry. That has our world on the brink of extinction. Unfortunately, it's a mission where everything will go wrong, where Douglas's training and very humanity will be put to the test, and where a deep-seated secret could sabotage everything. Another new series. And as long as you're flipping forward, go to Where Starships Go to Die, a third series from Aftershock. They got their 3 for 3 for me. Where Starships Go to Die. Point Nemo, the farthest oceanic point on Earth from any landmass. A spacecraft graveyard where rockets and satellites can safely be ditched on the ocean floor. In a near future ravaged by climate change, an African astronaut teams with an Indian shipping magnate to mount a dangerous salvage mission to recover the wreck of humanity's first interstellar starship. But what they find is beyond their worst nightmare. So again, pick them up as they go, or, Aftershock does graphic novels as well, so that may be a good way to do it. I got one more from Jimmy from Aftershock, but Cory, what else do you got?
I jump ahead to page 313.
Holy cow, you're not talking The Last Ronin hardcover.
Yes, I am.
Why, what a coincidence. Tell us about it.
Who is the last Ronin in a future battle-ravaged New York City? A lone surviving turtle embarks on a seemingly hopeless mission, seeking justice for the family he lost. From legendary Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles co-creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, get ready for the final story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 3 decades in the making. This collects the miniseries that was actually started by The Toys That Made Us, a Netflix series, because Eastman and Laird had not spoken to each other in years. Working on that series, they put their differences aside and decided to do a final Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story.
Cool. Way back on page 225, if you don't have the 9 issues of high-octane, those-numbing, boundary-buggering super spy action, here's your chance to get Garth Ennis's and Rush Brown's Jimmy's Bastards, the complete series hardcover. Jimmy Regent, Britain's #1 super spy, has got it all: intrigue, adventure, a license to shoot whoever he likes, and beautiful women falling at his feet. He also has a new partner who isn't quite as impressed by him as all the other women appear to be. But now there's a price to pay for Jimmy's multiple romantic conquests, the results of which are bound to come calling in the worst possible way. And of course, there's one final secret from Jimmy's past that even might shock the ever unimpressed Nancy to her core on the last page. No, I'm kidding. It's somewhere in Jimmy's Bastards, the complete series hardcover. I don't recall ever getting this, so here's your chance to get it.
We read the first issue. No, we read the first trade paperback for a review.
That's why it sounds so familiar.
We got a review copy.
Cool. Well, here's your chance to get the complete series.
If you go to page 336, Penguin Classics is now going to be printing Marvel Comics.
What?
Yep, they will have softcover and hardcover. The softcovers are $28, hardcovers are $50. The Spider-Man reprints the first 2 years. Key stories from the first years from 62 to 64. Captain America has his first appearance from 1941 along key examples of the first solo stories of the 60s. And Black Panther has the origin story and Panther's Rage by Don McGregor. This is another reprint of these books for the book trade, but it's part of the deal that they have with Penguin doing their distribution. They are now part of Penguin Classics. So yet another way to get these early stories. I'm not going to be getting these because I don't think I need the first few stories of Spider-Man in yet another format. But it's a cool way to get those books.
Back on page 228, Cory, are you sure you're on the right Earth?
No.
Because Mark Waid and Leonard Kirk write The Wrong Earth, Confidence Men one-shot. The Wrong Earth contains its season of one-shots, or continues its season of one-shots, with compelling tales by superstar team of Mark Waid and Leonard Kirk. After a few near cataclysmic mistakes by the Stingers of Earth Alpha and Earth Omega, the heroes of both Earths decide to teach their sidekicks some hard lessons. Can these junior partners live up to the expectation of Dragonfly and Dragonflymen, or will they ultimately be pushed too far? You got me at Mark Waid. That's all I can say.
Now, normally I do not get the magazine Retro Fan. Joe talked about it in our last episode. Normally I don't get Retro Fan because I feel that the articles are they're too light. I want something with some more heft to them, something that goes into a little more detail. But issue 22 is one that I have to pick up because they have an article on the 60s beach movies, which is a movie series that I absolutely love. The Frankie Avalon and Ep Funicello movies, which started off as, just, hey, bikinis are hot. We could get some hot girls. Just put together a stupid plot and maybe have some rock and roll. But very soon they brought in more talented people. They got Don Rickles involved. They had Buster Keaton doing their sight gags, and he appeared in some of them. And they're much better than you remember, especially the sight gags. Buster Keaton pulled out a lot of his gags from silent movies and had them redone in these movies. The plots are always silly. The girls are always pretty. The rock and roll is kind of better than you would think, because you've got like Stevie Wonder performing. You've got the Trashmen performing. It's well worth watching those movies next time they show up on Turner Classic. And I'm going to be picking up this magazine because there's not a lot written about those movies. They were very low budget. They were dismissed at the time because they were just, we're just going to put them in drive-ins. And then when they're done, we'll run them on TV on Saturday afternoons for kids. But the movies, I went back and watched them all about 6-7 years ago. I was really impressed by what they did with such a low budget, using all those old silent movie gags. And I've only got one more comic I want to point out, and it's in the manga section.
Oh, what is that? What might that be?
If you go to page 407.
Ooh.
Yasha Haim. Princess Half Demon. This is a sequel to Inuyasha. Can the three teenage daughters of the demon dog half-brothers Inuyasha and Shashanru save their parents, themselves, and both realms from the menace of the 7 mystical rainbow pearls? Inuyasha, which was by Rumiko Takahashi. This is not by Rumiko, but it is following up on her work. So I'm going to pick it up. I love Rumiko Takahashi stuff. I loved Inuyasha. Inuyasha is the one that most people in the U.S. know because it was on Cartoon Network for years and years and years and years and years. So I'm looking forward to this one. I hope it's almost as good as Inuyasha. I don't think there's any way anybody could really capture the kind of stuff that Rumiko Takahashi did. But if this comes close, I'll be very happy with it. And for me, that's it. So
as long as you're in manga, I'll point out
away
on some things on page 400 in the manga, Street Fighter Swimsuit Special. Again, if you just like pinups and the fun-filled summer swimwear spectacular, this is the one to do. I used to love it when Amazing Heroes did these swimsuit ones. They were just fun. Anyways, I pointed out because it's not in the regular comics. It's back there. If you're a Deadpool fan, the last final volume of Deadpool Samurai, Volume 2 is on page 409 from Viz. And then something, if you're confused like me and you're like, just what the heck is all this manga all about? Go to page 435. And in the corner there, you'll see the manga history of manga. Manga is the form of Japanese narrative art that has grown over the centuries to become a global phenomena in the post-World War II era. Initially referring to graphic novels and comics, manga has expanded beyond its original forms to include animation, fashion, and other new media. This book is arranged into 6 thematic chapters, each opening with an essay followed by interviews and art selections. That it's a revealing study that traces the origin of manga and explores its role in society and its appearance in different media, from video games to street art, as well as its growing international reach. So if you, like me, want to know more about what this manga is all about, there's your chance. A good book offered again, so you can pick it up. All right, let me crack here, take a quick... All right, page 238, Archie, the best Archie comic ever. It's a one-shot, and it has, let's see, superheroes, barbarians, and spies. You can look at the art right there, but being it's a one-shot, and let's see, we see Pureheart, Betty and Jughead with a dinosaur, and it looks like Pop's Chocolate Shop is Veronica's top secret lair. So definitely want to check that out. Page 270, Egged, one shot. Maria's quiet suburban life is upended after she accidentally eggs the car of a conspiracy theorist. Now this cunning and relentless adversary threatens to expose her long-hidden secrets. Thrills abound in this satirical one-shot from writer Nick Palmier. and artist George Cambadias. Egged. So next time you toss an egg at somebody, read this comic first. You may not do it. Across the page on page 271, Wash Day Diaries. The book takes its title from the wash day experiences shared by Black women everywhere of setting aside all the plans and responsibilities for a full day of washing, conditioning, and nourishing their hair. Other than, I'm bald. But each short story uses hair routines as a window into these four characters' everyday lives and how they care for each other. And it just sounds amazingly interesting because obviously it's a peek into lifestyles that I'm not familiar with. On page 288, Iron Maiden coloring book. For you Iron Maiden fans, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that. We already talked about the last Ronin hardcover, page 3. That was on page 313, by the way. 316. Dun, dun, dun. Don't want to do it quick. I get a paper cut. Ow. If you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, here's your chance to get the Teenage Mutant Turtles Ninja. I'm sorry. It's the Pizza Cookbook gift set. Straight out of the sewers and right into the kitchen, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' favorite pizzas are finally yours to create and enjoy. It's a cookbook, but it's a unique cookbook, and if you got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, I bet you they won't see it again. As Cory mentioned earlier, on page 334, for you Bill and Ted fans, there's Bill and Ted Roll the Dice. Well, the time-traveling duo are back in a monthly series of mostly excellent adventures. Go to hell with Bill and Ted as they must save their souls and with saving rolls. Old friend Joan of Arc, Alistair Crowley, and all Dr. Feelgood all round out the party. You get a art cover or a photo cover, and I will go for the photo cover in the off chance I could get the actors to actually sign it. Also on page 334, I'm just going to point out across from it, we talked about it last month, Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. This is all in Opus Comics, by the way. Not only can you choose from the Frazetta cover, but there's a Linsner cover. Oh, man. If they weren't $5 a piece, I'd get them both. Page 343. Dun, dun, dun. We've got the Essential Judge Dredd Necropolis. I mention this because I just finished reading the Essential Judge Dredd Apocalypse War, and these are fantastic because they take a complete story, they put it all together in one, and you can just enjoy Judge Dredd without having to worry about where it happens and what timeline and whatever. So I recommend this. Not terribly expensive, fun way to do it. Page 347. Agent of World. Let's see. This is World stands for, well, it's a sci-fi spy organization known as World. But you've got horny robots, super evolving orangutan bosses, joyriders from the 26th century. Nothing phases Philip Blank, top agent for World. But lately, Philip's been wondering if there isn't more to life than saving the world through creative violence. What is Philip hiding from World, and how far will he go to keep it hidden? This was resolicited from last year, 4-issue series from Scout Comics. So here's your chance to get on board in case you missed it or thought you missed it. From Source Point Press, Bible Volume 2. Jesus Christ is back, and he's not crucifying around in this official sequel 2,000 years in the making. When he's not giving mass, he's kicking ass, putting the sin back in the synagogue. Hail to the King of the Jews, baby. Yes, if I haven't offended you with this, well, you should probably go buy this. It's only $14, and you don't want to be left up of the New Testament. The last thing is on page 364, The Man Who Fell to Earth, which is a all-new, fully authorized graphic novel adaptation of the cult 1976 movie starring David Bowie.
Which is getting a remake.
That could be cool. I remember seeing this. We had a theater called the Uptown, which was a revival house, and I would hop the 21 bus, which was one of the most notorious buses in town, go all the way across the metro area to usually catch 1 or 2 or 3 sci-fi series. This was the first one I made. I think I was there to see Dark Star for the first time, but I saw this and it was just amazing. And I don't want to say nothing about it because it's got a few twists. You won't believe what happens on the last page, but it's just a lot of fun. And if you can go out and see the movie before the remake, you'll probably appreciate it even more. All right, you ready, Cory? Ready
Sure.
to flip that previews over, people.
I have mine picked already.
This is for Brian. Go ahead. I've been talking a bit.
Joe, I probably don't have to tell you, but please go to page 47.
Page 47 it is.
From Funko, American composer, guitarist, satirist of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Frank Zappa is now joining your pop collection, featuring a signature Funko style. This pop vinyl figure of Frank Zappa is my pick for toys this month, and yes, I am buying it.
And this is all for Brian. I've got 3 things. Do you got anything else, sir?
Nope, that was it. That was enough.
Well, no.
I'm putting my money down on that book.
$12. I mean, I'm looking at a $50 Star Trek, the original series, USS Enterprise 18-inch ship replica from Playmates, because they kick ass when they make their ships. And the one I have is an older Playmates one that my daughter got a hold of and covered with stickers. So on page 35, way up there in the corner, there's your chance to get it. It's going to ship July 2022, but you tell your comic shops you want it now, and if they haven't already ordered it, they can order it for you. It's got all sorts of fun things, Try Me retro packaging so you can press the buttons without taking it out of the package. If that's not enough, on page 38, Obey, Submit, They Live, Wave 1 retro action figures. These are where they take those little tiny figures that we used to call action figures, and they're calling them reaction. And just put them on the wall. Obey, Submit. You got the male ghoul and the female ghoul from They Live. And throughout here you can see they got Haunted House, they got Mars Attacks, but Obey, Submit. That's really all you need. And of course, if you're rich, like I know Brian is, he's going to go right to page 55 and get the Godzilla vs. Hydra, the Hydra 50th anniversary Smog Monsters art set. Now the Godzilla is separate, but this is the Smog Monster in both his, to me, terrifying regular form and of course the flying form with the funky ads. Now, when this came out, again, I was a kid, and the Smog Monster terrified me because of those big ass ugly eyes. Once I saw the movie with all the disco in it, it terrified me a little less.
Actually, it terrified me more because of all the disco in it.
But again, it's only $200, and Brian, this is for Brian. And that's it. Bon appetit, caviar and power, and all that good stuff.
And you know what you should do after going through your previews or putting your order in at your local comic shop or going online and uploading your order?
Go to Pornhub?
No, you should protect your computer with our pals over at NordVPN.
Which, if you go to Pornhub, you probably need to.
Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files that backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku. It'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And you should download a whole bunch of my podcasts like these. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast, and he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha. And then you get to Joe's favorite part of the show, where you give him money for things. Yep. Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Well, because this is a super, super long preview show, I'm not going to talk a lot about what's going on in the previews. I got some real fun facts of things that I looked up and discovered. Plus, I've been selling. It's always a joy to see what will sell on the eBays. And next week, I'll talk a little bit more about the things I'm selling. But if you want to see what I've got, and if you are a listener of this here podcast, you know what to do. Go to my eBay store, and if it's too expensive, how dare you? I mean, drop me a note. Maybe I'll give you a better deal. Maybe you'll say, you know what, you got this book for $100. Would you take 90? And I'll say, how dare you? As a listener of this show, I insist on $69.95 and not a penny more. Or I might just sell it to you, especially if it's one of the low-grade things, and just go for it. And I might toss in something cool because I got tons of stuff. If I ain't going to put it on eBay, I'll give it to you, our cherished listeners. You know where to go, crazy, Krayz. Let's go crazy. Oh, I don't want Princess State mad at me. Oh, well, anyways, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I spend 15 minutes breaking down Minoru Suzuki versus Samoa Joe on last night's Dynamite as one of the greatest wrestling matches I have seen in a year. And it is, and you should watch it, and it is amazing. And I should do commentary for it to break down why it's so good. But no, it's Freaking and Geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
My notes are all mixed up. Did I bitch about losing my Facebook last week?
Yes.
Okay, forget that. Cross that off. Let's see. If that ain't bad enough, today's Thursday. I get up. First thing I usually do is I want to go watch the latest Picard episode. Paramount Plus signed itself off. Why? Why the hell would it do that? I don't. And of course, I don't know who signed up for it. I didn't, because when I went to go reset my, this password's incorrect. Okay, so I'll set up a new one. I never got the notice, so I didn't set it up, which means either my kid or my wife set it up. And again, I want my Star Trek. Work is. Did I tell you I'm retiring in 2 years, 10 months, and as this podcast drops, 10 days. And every so often, I think, okay, I'm getting into a groove. Things are going good. Everything seems to be going fine. And then I discover, no, it's not really. If you've seen the headlines lately, they're pushing that they're trying to get pay equity. They're trying to get us to equal pay as other members of the U.S. government are, because TSA had this goofy pay per performance thing, which although I feel I did well at, apparently had I been in a normal government, I'd be making possibly 30% more than I'm going to. So they're working on trying to equal that out, mainly because, well, Cory, tell them what's going on in the real world, in the working world.
Well, inflation is hitting. Unemployment is at record lows. Here in the Twin Cities, I believe it is 3.5%. So people are leaving jobs that they don't like. It is called the Great Resignation. And boy, if you read business pages, they hate the fact that this is happening, that people are leaving their jobs for better jobs.
They are screaming warnings. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. But they're not saying, oh, yeah, we're going to raise wages.
Yeah. Which I've been around for a while. Same thing happened in the early 90s when the recession there was over. It was people started saying, I don't need to work at a job that I hate, and would quit and find another job. And business owners lost their minds until eventually they were like, hey, if we want to keep people, we're going to have to start giving perks. So by the end of the 90s, you got all those stories about new employers are giving bonuses and putting in foosball tables and blah, 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 blah. And then as soon as a recession hit, all that was gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, the one we bitched about biggest, or at least I did, was, Barnes & Noble firing everybody who worked there and then rehiring those that wanted to come back at minimum wage.
Yeah.
So that's happening at TSA. It's not so much dumb farts like me who have been around forever and are, what's my goal? Retirement. It's newer people who are coming in and, for the grief I'm given, and if you don't think you're getting grief, you ain't been paying attention to the news. Mostly it's people punching out flight attendants at 30,000 feet, but the same shit's going on at ground level with TSA. People just think, oh, you're a government employee. I can abuse you how you want.
I think they do that to all front-facing employees, because you've also got people beating up store staff. Yeah, anybody with a name tag, they know they don't have power.
You can try that. What's not being published are the ones who will punch you back.
Yeah.
Oh, did I say that? Nor will they say when TSA slaps you with a civil fine.
Yeah.
What's the fun part of a civil fine? You can't contest it anywhere. You pay it.
You can't bankruptcy out of it.
Yep. So anyways, hopefully people calm thy tits down and things mellow out. Anyways, one of the things they did is they're like, okay, we're going to give 30%. Well, it's based on how long you've been in that step area. So like I was a lead for quite 17 years, I would probably have gotten a full 30%. However, as you know, I demoted last year. Being that I've been in my grade less than a year, I'm getting nothing. Zero. Nada. To tell you the truth, don't give a flying fuck. I'm looking to retire. Had I actually gotten 30% like everybody else might, I might stuck around a little bit more, but it just gives you another incentive to leave. Again, this is aimed at, in my opinion, the newbies are trying to keep, not the old farts like me that they already got. Again, none of this is in gold because it's got to get signed into law, and then TSA has 90 days to figure out how to do it. And I'm pretty sure they have in their brain, the paranoia in me says, yeah, we got Ryder, we're paying him too much, let's get rid of him. He's going to retire in 20 anyways. And that's a big deal because TSA, as it hits their 20th anniversary, that's the earliest people can retire. And it's already happened in other branches of the government where all of a sudden everybody who knew what was going on is gone, and you get all these newbies back. Not a big deal with TSA because they teach you everything you need to know, but they're either trying to get rid of me or they haven't figured out how to take care of someone like me. Either way, don't give a fuck. But it is discouraging. The other things that's discouraging is, occasionally, my supervisors being told, the one at the ground level dealing with where I work is being told, okay, get the schedule the way you need it, get people in place. So they worked out a plan, had me sign off on it, which would have kept me on 10-hour days, 3 days off a week, which I absolutely love. I've been doing it for 7 years. I want to keep doing it. But they don't offer it. For some reason, their brain trusts in scheduling. Oh, no, you can only work 8-hour days and have 2 days off. But why? No, 8-hour days, 2 days off. But for the last 10, no, 8-hour days, 2 days off. Well, my boss figured out how to make it work better. I signed off on it. She signed off on it. The managers who run the terminals and the checkpoints and the baggage signed off on it. Some brain fart in headquarters. Nope, we can't do that. Really? Have you ever gotten out of your fucking office and come down to the floor to see how we work? Or are you just making some bullshit announcement? Again, I'm a benefit of the doubt guy. Maybe he's got a metrics that shows, I'm sorry, it wouldn't work, even though it's been working for the past 7 years. Whatever. It was just discouraging. Nobody's happy about it. Well, except the person who said no, probably, who's, probably sitting at home because they don't work at night, they don't work weekends, they don't work holidays. They didn't have to go to work in the snow. If that ain't goofy enough, Variety posted today an article, Warner Brothers Discovery exploring overhaul of DC entertainment. Again, they're like, oh, this is going to be wonderful. We're going to get them in their own vertical thing so they can unlock the full potential of the DC comic universe and characters. Although there was one line in there, and I probably can't find it, where they talk about how important cost cutting will be to Warner's new owners while they mine DC's library of characters that could help control spending. That doesn't, how the fuck would that work? You're going to cost cutting. That's easy. No more graphic novels, no more comic books, no more nothing. Yeah, doom and gloom, Joe, whatever. If you mine DC's comics and characters, could help control spending.
Can I give a little more detail on this? Because
that would
I know
be helpful.
People who I know people,
and we know you know people.
What's going on is that in the past, Warner has been bought by companies that aren't entertainment companies. AOL, AT&T. Well, this time they've been bought by Discovery. And what happens when basically two companies that are in the same industry merge? They go through, and whoever had the most power, if guy in Warner Brothers is doing a job and guy in Discovery is doing the same job, we don't need two people to do the job. Usually it's the company that buys the other company that has the say, and usually in this scenario that I came up with, the Discovery person will be the one who stays. However, one of the other things that they're doing now in the last few years with these similar company mergers is whoever's getting paid less is the one who stays. So, like right now, Discovery has a streaming service, Warner has a streaming service. If they still have two separate streaming services by this time next year, I would be shocked and amazed. CNN just started CNN Plus. And you know how they're already saying, hey, if you subscribe now, you'll get it at half price for all eternity. That's because in the first month, they've had fewer than 10,000 people sign up for this service. They thought they would have a lot more people signing up. That's why they went out and they hired people like Chris Wallace and others to have their shows on CNN Plus. Well, nobody wants CNN Plus because if you want cable news, there's more than enough fucking cable news. And besides, why would I buy CNN Plus if I already have HBO Plus? Shouldn't CNN Plus be part of HBO Plus? So what's going to happen is I imagine that these streaming services will merge, and people who work in streaming over at HBO and people who work at streaming over at Discovery Plus, anybody who's redundant will be let go. what's happening at DC, nobody knows other than when AT&T came in, they said, why are you publishing and doing anything with anything other than Batman? Whereas Discovery is looking at it like, holy crap, you've got thousands of characters that we could use like Peacemaker. Why aren't you pushing those? So that's where we are with Warner being bought by someone. Once again, somebody on Facebook said, you know, what's going to happen is that Warner's going to sell everything off to Marvel. No, they're not.
No,
Would
not
you want to be the executive? Let's say just Superman. Just Superman. Superman goes over to Marvel. Marvel puts out a Superman comic that does well. Nobody cares. Then they put out a Superman movie that makes $1 billion. Whoever that executive was at Discovery who said, let's sell off DC, he's never working again ever anywhere for any company ever at any time. Because, hey, he's the guy who let $1 billion property get away. Warner will never sell off DC. Ever. No.
They may
Just
not
like
publish.
Mad. They will never sell off Mad,
They may
even if
never.
it only sells 30,000 copies.
Yeah, they may stop publishing comics, which is a different subject. But as long as somebody somewhere can show a positive, you know, it all depends on how much they're going to leave them alone or not.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. According to the people I know who work at DC, who work in entertainment and work in the corporate world, because the company I was at almost went through a merger. The EU's the one who said, no, you can't merge. Your companies are too much alike. But all of the people in charge at my company had already put together their exit plan, because when the merger would hit, we don't need 2 CEOs, we don't need 2 COOs, we don't need 2 CFOs. So now we have all new leadership. Because it's, you know, when the CEO says he's going to retire, you can't pretty much, the merger didn't go through. I guess I'm staying at my job. No, there are plans already in place. So,
a couple bad news here. Our pal Dangerous Dan Moore, despite getting vaccinated, despite taking care of himself and eating well and saying his prayer and eating his vitamins, he caught COVID. He just posted that on the Facebook, so I'm thinking of him. And you know what, Cory? You know what I do in order to get a break from this here podcast?
Drink heavily?
Hell no! I go get some surgery done.
Oh!
I'm going to go get my hernia taken care of on May 18th. So we'll have to figure out when we record on the 19th whether or not I'll be able to sit up long enough to podcast, or maybe I can come and you know, give a quick assessment and then go, okay, drugs wearing off, gotta go now.
I just want you to do a podcast all lit up on goofballs.
Oh, I will try that. I mean, our good friend Mike told of the day when I had my other hernia, back when I had the comic store, after I got it done, because it's a day job. And day surgery, you go home, and on the way home, I told Chris, let's go stop at the shop. And then while I was at the shop, the drugs gave out, and Mike says, I could just see your head go down like, time to go home. Yeah. So I got that going for me.
Which is nice.
That's all I'm freaking on. Cory, what you freaking on?
I'm really not freaking on much of anything. Things are going rather smooth. The group home is going well. My other job's going well. Comics seem to be okay. We already talked about the DC thing. So let's go right into geeking. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Well, I already talked about the one book I read, Judge Dredd, Apocalypse War. I read another one, and let me see if I can reach all the way over and get it.
Let me whip this out.
This one, because I'm pretty sure you read it. I read Plastic Man on the Lam by Kyle Baker.
That was such a great book. Oh. One of the few Plastic Man stories I absolutely loved. His run of Plastic Man was fantastically fun.
What was cool about it is first of all, it's drawn in Kyle's style, which I absolutely love. And, you know, it tied into things. It made references to, wait, weren't we around? You were around in the Golden Age? No, not really. And the surprise villain who appears on the last page, well, no, before that, I didn't see coming. I mean, I figured out who it was, but I didn't figure out who it was. And I want to say that I got the vinyl edition, which is it could be Plastic Man himself for all I know. He's just holding something. Let me try tickling it. sorry, Plas. Just fun. This is only the first 6 issues of the whole series. I know there was an omnibus out. It's ungodly expensive, although I did see one for a decent price that Kyle actually remarked, and I put a watch on it. Generally, I expect when you put a watch on something that someone's going to come back and like, oh, I'll make you a best offer, because I know that's what I do, but not everybody's smart enough to want my money. So I read both of those in the last week. I didn't read much else. There was a couple things. I mentioned Lake of Tears. By the way, if you are interested, I mentioned you could call Mind's Eye Comic, 952-492-9350, or go to mindseyecomics.com, and he might be able to set you up with that, because it's a pretty good one. I did get a copy of The Return of Astro City #1. I am not buying it because I'm going to pick it up in book form. It's awesome. Does not fail to deliver. Plus, it gives Kurt gives a good write-up as to what's going on. I picked it up because Eric Larson did a cover with Savage Dragon and Samaritan on the cover. They did tons of variant covers, and believe me, there are a few that I wish I had, like the one from oh shoot, I'm staring at the book, but I can't see the creator's name. Chu. He did a cover, so just a lot of fun. But I'm going to pick up Astro City. Kurt hasn't lost his touch. Just phenomenal. I haven't read much else because I'm reading a book which I've talked about before called Hollywood Heyday, which is 75 candid interviews with Golden Age legends. It was started by 2 college kids, David Fantle and Tom Johnson, back in the 80s when they were big fans of what we call Golden Age movies. They would actually work at various rest homes and old folks' homes and bring these movies so they could play and enjoy them with people who remembered them and did enjoy them. And just out of the sheer blue, they thought, hey, let's give Fred Astaire a note and see if we could do an interview. And lo and behold, he agreed to it. And then they had to figure out how many tables and they needed to bus in order to get enough airfare to get out to Hollywood to interview him and then get back. Once they got Fred to do it, other people would do it because Fred either put in a good word or they said, oh, well, if Fred agreed to it, I'll do it. And I'm just going to look at the table of contents. Let's see, Eddie Albert, Steve Allen, Ed Asner, I mentioned Fred Astaire, Lucille Ball, Rona Barrett, Milton Berle, Jacqueline Bisset, Mel Blanc, George Burns, Frank Capra, Mike Connors, Julia Epstein, Peter Falk, one for you, Mr. Columbo guy, Charlton Heston, and that's just the first half of the book. Fascinating read. Not every interview is real in-depth. Some of them are, like when they talked to Tony Curtis, it was just amazing. Some of them were real, these guys had axes to grind. Some of them, like George Burns, who you talk to a kid nowadays and say vaudeville, do they even know what vaudeville was? It's just a fascinating book. I got mine from thrift books off of eBay. It's off McFarland Press. It was published back in 2018, so it's been a while, but just a fascinating book. And interviewing people that I may not have known, people that I don't, oh, you wrote that, or you were involved with Casablanca this way. So just a fascinating book. Let's see, what other goodies? Oh, I did do some geeking last week. As mentioned, I went down to Gamers Island down in Hastings. I'm trying to find their address. Right on the main street, 1806 Vermilion. Great store. They were doing some sales. I stopped back in Hastings to Tippy's Collectibles. he had some Tron figures there, but not priced, not for sale. And I was like, oh, you're killing me. I would have probably jumped on that right away. I'm going to be revisiting a lot more stores as time goes on, because I have been tasked by Kelly himself to help advertise the return of Microcon Comic Book Show.
Microcon 3?
Nope, this is just Microcon because it's the return. It has comic dealers that have artists, creators, 6,000 square feet of action, Saturday, May 14th, 2022, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Mermaid Entertainment and Events Center, the Atlantis Ballroom, which is 2200 Mounds View Boulevard in Mounds View. $5 to get in, 9 and under are free. As of now, I don't have a table. I might in the future have one, in which case I'll bring all that fun stuff I used to have when we did the charity booth. And since obviously Chris don't want it around anymore, I'm just gonna be blowing that stuff out. So stuff that ain't on the eBays, like especially like toys and statues and other books and things, I'll bring them. I also took how would you say it, advice that we give all the time. You know how I have no idea if he listens to the show, but I'm friends with him on Facebook. Mark Lone, artist extraordinaire, was trying to get his post-COVID activities moving again. And so I had him do a Supergirl print or Supergirl original art for me, which he contacted, and he blew it out of the park. And I put it on the eBays. It's not in my Supergirl album yet, but when it gets there, I'll let you know. I've got some other art there. My daughter loved it so much, she bought some original art and a print from him. So go check out his website. But I sent an email to one of the guests, Gordon Purcell, who is one of the local guys, been around forever. And I asked him and pre-ordered a Supergirl piece from him.
Oh,
so
cool.
He has over a month to work on it. I have no problems paying him up front, and I'll pick it up May 14th. So if you're so inclined to do stuff, I know him. I know Dan Jurgens is there. I'm not sure who else is there, but I'll try to corner Kelly. He gave me all the flyers for the con. So if you're a comic store or you got a fan and you want me to send you some flyers and distribute them, I'm going to be hitting almost every store in town. I was going to try doing it today, but I mentioned earlier, or did I mention? I mentioned to Cory maybe off. I had to bring my cop car in for to have brakes checked because you're getting that, not a rubbing, but just the noise, and they were down. And where the hell did the list go? Let's see. I gotta let's see. Pads and rotors, brake fluids, rear wiper oil change, coolant flush, serpentine belt. My tire had a hole in it. I'm driving that thing like a real cop car, so I suppose it will go down like that. By the time we talk next week, my wife will have been retired.
Wow.
35 years at the city of St. Paul. And if you happen to be in St. Paul, I believe it's February 22nd, it's Chris Ryder Day.
Actually, that would be April.
April?
Not February. You said February.
You're right. See, I'm so excited. I don't even know what month it is. So if you're there,
how can I get a day?
Well, have some surgery done. That's how I'm getting off.
No. How can we get a day where St. Paul or Minneapolis or Chaska or somebody says that it's Crazy Comics and Stories Day?
Well, first of all, I think we need a Wikipedia page.
No.
Damn
it.
Ain't gonna happen. Anyways, I spent a lot of money at, I went up to the Source, Dreamer's Island. I stopped at a few other places around town. And of course, next week I'm going to start it all again, or at least try to get as much done. I didn't do much Wednesday, Thursday because of, I was trying to get my car in, and then the weather was so crappy. I probably would have been fine in the cities because we had enough windbreaks. So even a few 60-mile-an-hour gusts aren't going to do much to us. But again, if you need some flyers for the con, you know what to do. You know how to get a hold of me. And if not, geez, you got Google. It's not like I'm hiding. Cory, what you geeking on?
On April 30th, it is Independent Bookstore Day. Dreamhaven Books announced that they were going to be celebrating their independence with sales and freebies to be determined. And then the next week is Free Comic Book Day.
And we missed their birthday party.
Yeah, we did. But
Yeah.
I will be going to Independent Bookstore Day. It's a Saturday. So Joe would have to go either really, really early.
Is it Saturday?
It is Saturday the 30th.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to go early. Because I'm off free comic book day, but not...
So I got 2 weekends where I have to go out and be amongst the people.
Yes.
Not really happy about that, but still I have to be amongst the people. WrestleMania weekend, I wrote up a bunch of shows for PW Insider, and Mike Johnson, who's one of the, he and Dave Shearer are the two big high muckety mucks, and Mike sent me a lot of thank yous and everything. But this week on the No Name Show, which is their weekly kind of catch-all news show for wrestling, they said some wonderful things about my writing, my professionalism, the way I jumped in on stuff. And I'm not used to that. And it's weird that I kind of fell into covering wrestling. It wasn't anything I said, oh, I'm going to do this. It was, I think the first thing I ever did for them was I went to the Jerry Lynn retirement show. I said, oh, I'll send you guys a report. And I wrote it up, sent it in. And then whenever Ring of Honor was in town, I'd write it up, send it in. And then they said, hey, there's this Minneapolis group that's going to have a pay-per-view. You want to cover that? Sure. So I wrote it up, sent it in. And then they would ask me, hey, can you cover Impact this week? Can you cover this show this week? Until eventually they were asking me to cover the Royal Rumble, which, boy, ooh, whoa. You got to cover 30 people coming into the ring every 90 seconds. That's when you learn how fast you can type. And when AEW started up, I asked if I could cover that. They said, sure. And I've been doing that for 2.5 years now. But I don't think I've ever really felt as good as when they actually set aside time to kind of put me over. Because I still feel like I'm new at doing it. I still feel like I'm making a lot of mistakes as I write things up. But I guess that I'm doing a good job. And it's nice to hear you're doing a good job. Because my office job, they'll tell you do a good job every so often, once in a while. But for the most part, I'm just kind of out here on my own.
Cory, you're a jobber.
At the group home, I get plugged in everywhere. And they do tell me that they really appreciate the fact that I'm really flexible, that I will work pretty much anywhere, that I can be called in on short notice, et cetera, et cetera. But being given accolades for my writing, because my writing is what I really care about. My writing and this podcasting are why I do the other jobs. So kind of putting myself over, doing the Barry Horowitz, patting myself on the back. Comic-wise, I read the first 2 volumes of Pearl, which we talked about in our previews. I did not know a 3rd volume was going to be starting up. It was a Bendis original that he did at DC that I waited till it was in trade paperback, because Bendis, his creator-owned stuff, comes out maybe on nowhere near on time, and maybe finishes and maybe doesn't. But it's him and Michael Gaydos working together. Gaydos's art is very photorealistic. I think he uses models and such, because there are a lot of times where that's a little stiff. That looks like he just is kind of doing a drawing of a picture, things like that. But the story is really good. Different twist on Bendis's crime stuff. I enjoyed it a lot. So when the 3rd volume comes out as trade paperback, I'll be picking it up. But the other thing I have done, I have talked in the past about Guandana Land Comics, which reprint public domain stuff in paperback and hardcover, black and white, and color. Well, every so often, you should, if you're interested at all in these books, you should join the discussion groups on Facebook, because every so often, Amazon will do silly sales. What it is, if you're self-publishing on Amazon, there are times they will cut the price enormously on the books that Amazon publishes. Don't know why. It's good promotion. I get an email every day from a thing called BookBub, which has ebooks that have been discounted or are free. And a lot of the books I'm reading now are like action adventure books that I got from BookBub for free. Usually it's, here's a book in this series, and if you like it, there are 20 other books in the series. But with Gondanaland, every so often they get a silly sale, and some of the books that I've picked up are like $11.99 for books that are normally $30, $40, or $50. So this week, I had Police Comics Giant Reader number 3. Police Comics is where Plastic Man and the Spirit was published. This is issues 17 through 24, so it's over 500 pages, was $11.99 in black and white. Really nice printing. And also, I've talked in the past about Eerie Publications. Eerie Publications was one of those, Myron Fass was the publisher, who's a well-known scumbag. When Eerie Publications hit the scene in the mid-'60s, they hit upon an interesting idea for writing their horror stories. They just wouldn't do it. Why pay writers when there are so many great horror comic stories already out there? So Eerie took stories already in print, mostly from the early 50s, before the Comics Code, gave them to artists to redraw in a modern vein, generally more graphic, more gory. Sometimes they would just take the art and rework it by adding blood and gore to it. Sometimes the original story was reworked. Sometimes it was redrawn altogether. This was not, strictly speaking, legal. In fact, it was piracy. Still, no one noticed. And Eerie Publications put out, let's see, they did 6 years of publishing before they finally went under. Tales of Voodoo, Volume 1, Tales from the Tomb, Volume 1, and Terror Tales, Volume 1. These are other, let's see, complete, these are the giant books that are 500 or more pages. So they reprint, how many issues here? 10 issues of these magazines, and they were $11.99 each. Now, these are all public domain. I could read them on the computer, but to get a 500-page book of old shitty comics for $12, I could not pass it up. These are just ridiculously bad. Some of them, you could tell that they took the art and just drew blood all over it. But one of the things they do is they actually will have at the bottom of the splash page of each story where it was originally published from. And I am just enjoying these in a I don't know, a morbid way. Just shitty 50s comics redrawn for the late 60s and early 70s for next to nothing. Until my box day shows up, these are going to give me hours of entertainment where I don't have to really pay attention, and I can go, yeah, that's a pretty stupid story. Oh, yeah, boy, you can tell, oh, that panel doesn't fit at all. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000 without the bots making fun of it at the bottom. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for 2.5 hours.
Good for you.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Somewhere, an elderly lady is reading a book on how to use the internet while a young boy Googles how to read a book.
I miss the crickets.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Oh, well. But you don't miss this. Hit my music.